landed in Vancouver, BC, and how he ever immigrated into the United States, I don't know. But Mom came after she left my eldest brother in Japan, and she never divulged the fact that I'd had a brother in Japan until somewhere around 1974 when my sister-in-law goes to Japan. Her relative said that you have a brother-in-law sitting right here, and that's the first time I knew. Well, I was still a youngster then, didn't know too much about the world, or we don't have the communication that we have today, like your television or telephone, a lot of radio then, but then we heard that that Japan had attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor. So at that time, my brother was farming carrots in Balico, and all the Filipino nationals that was helping them, they said that they were at war with Japan because they invaded the United States. But my brother went to their houses and pleaded with them that we had nothing to do with that war. We had nothing to do with the bombing of the Pearl Harbor, and actually they came back to work for us at that time. Mm-hmm.
How old were you at that time?
I was, I think, 14 when that thing happened. Yeah, 14, maybe 15.
And then what happened?
Well, within a couple months' time, we said the government said that we were going to have to vacate our homes, and we were going to be sent to a assembly center in Merced, and that's what happened. With only what we could carry is what we had on our backs, and maybe one suitcase. That's what happened.
Mm-hmm. What was that experience like? Can you tell us what the assembly center was like?
Well, actually, we were in Boy Scout troop number 17 in the community, and the administration in Merced Assembly Center asked the Boy Scouts to be the guide for the incoming evacuees that was coming into the Merced Assembly Center. And we were quite busy, so we had our duties to do, and it didn't actually hit me that hard until we went into another relocation center in Amache, Colorado, So we were in Merced Assembly Center probably about 6 or 7 months. Well, we boarded the train at Merced. I think it took us about at least 2 days to reach Colorado. And en route, we were allowed not to view your countryside, and all the drapes were drawn, and even at night we can't raise the drapes because they say that we'd be taking pictures of the landscape or whatever, and we had no camera, and they're taking everything away. So even then, people just on the train, they have guards with armed, soldiers, MPs, and they'd stop in the middle of the desert someplace, and we'd We were able to get out a couple times, but that was about it, you know. When we come through town, we couldn't raise the drapes at all, That was it. And we had orders that if you disobeyed, I don't know what they would have done, but we were not allowed to do that. And I can't remember how we fed us, but then I guess we were fed, but I don't remember really. Amachi, it consists of probably roughly maybe a couple miles square with barbed wires pretty high and fenced pretty high, with towers, guard towers in about 6 or 7 places, and that was pretty much it. And the terrain of that country is rolling sand hills, and they did not excavate, or they didn't level the ground to have the barracks built. They excavated, or they dug into the hillside and made the flat area for the barracks. Consequently, some in the hillside, the bottom side of the barracks are probably about 100 feet long, and the terrain is hilly. So the people on one end, like we were on 10E 1B in block 10. The wind would come level with your windows, and when that happens, there is cracks in that house that the sand would just come right into the house. And two, my mother, when she first got there, we couldn't see why she would have a hard time breathing, and I didn't know that she was an asthmatic person at that time. But what happens is the rain would come off the eaves and go straight into the ground. It didn't have any means of having the water drain, but it went straight into the ground off the eaves. Consequently, when that happened, the building was built with just a temporary structure type that it would seep back up into the house, because it was the floor was made with brick. It was laid with brick, and when that happens, that smell of that brick would come in that house, and I carried my mother on my back 3 or 4 times to the hospital, because they had so much trouble with other people, and they wouldn't send an ambulance out to pick her up. So that's what happened at that time. Yes, I went to school.
Can you tell us about school experience?
At that school, we had teachers, accredited teachers from various communities. A lot of them were actually the evacuees that had the teacher's credentials, and a lot of these people that was Lamar School District, I think is what it was, and we were educated at the Amachi High School there.
And did you complete high school there?
I didn't get to complete my school year. I think it was in January. Was it January? Yeah, I think so. When they had that induction notice come for me. There was a questionnaire, number, what was it, 27, 28. It divided the community into 2 groups, 3 groups. It was something. It was something. Right.
And that's the story you need to hear, the impact of 2 questions on, forever changing lives of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sachi was at Amachi.
Yes.
Because were you allowed to go off of the grounds? Like you went
For a time before, I think about a year or so many months we were there, it was allowed to buy or to leave the camp and go to Granada or to Lamar, Colorado, and do some shopping. But it took some time. It took some time. I believe when we were in the relocation center, there was a meeting for all persons of 18 years or older that are susceptible to be drafted into the Army. And everybody, men and women, had to answer this loyalty questionnaire. And it divided the community into 2 groups, really did. Some were very outspoken, and some were very quiet, but then actually in some of the camps, I think 2 of them, Tule Lake and Manzanar, they actually had riots because of this 2 questionnaire. 27 is the fact that are you willing to serve in the United States Army wherever served? And number 28 was, would you forswear all allegiance to foreign country or to the Japanese emperor? So it was quite decisive, and I answered the 2 questions, yes and yes. But when the day came that they served the notice to me, I says, why would I have to go because of the fact that we're uprooted from our environment, home, lost everything, and why should I stand up and say that I'm going to serve for the United States Army? And I objected at that time. So through all that, I've served my own consequences. A lot of times I can't talk about it because my friends say, why did you do this or why did you do that? I was a clam all my life. And today I will open up and say whatever I have to say to make people understand why these things did take place. The temperature in that place is probably 105 degrees to break the will of the person. And when I heard about that, I was really upset. But they didn't put me in there. And actually, if they were put into there maybe 2 days instead of 1 day, they would have broke their spirit. It was terrible. It was terrible. So from there, we were moved to the Denver County Jail, called the Trustee Ward, 1448 Klamath Street, Denver, Colorado. When I was in Colorado, Denver, about 2 years ago, I went looking for that building, but they had razed the building. It's no longer there. And I wanted to take a picture of it as a reminder, but no building standing in that position anymore. So there, I believe there was probably not to the exact count, but I think there was somewhere around 32 or 33 people that was involved in the same group that I was. And it was called the Trustee Ward, Denver, Colorado County Jail, 1448 Klamath Street. And we had a trial, and I wish I could still find the original draft that we had come up with at that time, but I cannot find it anymore. Naming the government was wrong to try to draft us after losing all our civil rights. My sentence was 1 year in prison. And through good behavior, I was out in 9 months and a couple days. And even though I spent that time in prison in Tucson, Arizona, at the Santa Catalina Road Camp in Tucson, Arizona. It was not a prison. It was a road camp where we had, I think, 4 barracks, and a lot of the people that was there was conscientious objectors, or some who had disobeyed the pricing of that area, or in Denver, they were serving their time there. And a lot of them were Jehovah's Witnesses, and we had also some 6 or 7 people that was from the Hopi Indian tribe, and one was a Navajo chief. It's quite interesting. And they understood our plight because of the fact that they were also discriminated amongst themselves. So,
Susumu, when you were telling me back at Manzanar about the trial, you were referring to the 1 year and 1 day sentence.
oh,
Can you expand on that?
many of us were some of us had pleaded nolo contendere, which is the fact that they put their mercy of the court. It's called a nolo contendere, and those people who did that realized the fact that no use trying to fight the government. We may as well make the best that we can do. My brother and I think there was 4 or 5 others that pleaded that case in that form, and they got, I think the minimum sentence was 6 months to maybe a year. When I was in prison, we were able to read, write Japanese fairly fluently, but non-usage of that language, I would say after all that, we started farming after all our rights were given back. President Truman pardoned all of us, and we got our rights back. But still, non-usage of the language, I lost the language because of the fact that I was away from home, farming with the family, but I was the designated person away from the house for 20 years, and I lost my Japanese language. But fortunately, through my own efforts, today I can go to Japan and not read and write, but with my own tongue, I can travel Japan without any fear of getting lost. I just got back from Japan last month for 3 weeks in Japan. I would say 1944, I would say somewhere around in May or June, we were in Amachi, Colorado, after coming back from our prison term. We go up to the fence, guard shack over there in Amachi, Colorado at the relocation center, and they would not let us in to see the family. So the next solution was, how are we going to see my mother, who is only one person left in camp? And we found a solution by entering the camp at night when the searchlight is going round and round. You time it so that when the searchlight goes over you, you run as hard as you can and find a sagebrush you can hide under. So that's how we entered camp every night. And we did this for about 10 days to visit my family, my mother, in the relocation center. However, through the jealousy of some of the people that was in camp, they burned us out. So we couldn't live around there anymore because we had no other spare clothing or no other luggage to keep us going through the day. You couldn't wash our clothes and wear it the very next day. It was hard to do. So we were working for an onion farmer named Mr. Matsunaga, and to about 5 of us, he gave us, between all of us, I think about $250 to reach Denver, Colorado, which is about, 200 and some miles from Amachi to Denver. And we were able to go to Denver and find employment there. But before finding employment, we had to have someplace to stay. So that very day, we hit Denver. My brother said, let's go have something to eat. So we find a little hole-in-the-wall restaurant, maybe about 24 by 24, little hole in the restaurant. And our waiter happened to be my good friend, Joe Norikani. And through that meeting, he was a brother to me the rest of my life. I lost him about 4 years ago, and we traveled the world together. By that I mean we'd find employment. We went to sugar beet thinning, sugar beet harvesting, and we made what was it we made? We worked for 10 days straight from sunup to sundown, and we made $1.13 a day. That's pretty good money. Through there, we went to Laramie, Colorado. My brother got so angry, we lost him for about 5 days. We couldn't find him. We'd go into Denver and ask around, and nobody knew where he was. So, well, I figured maybe he would show up. Then finally, about 5 days later, he did show up. And he had befriended a person, what was his name? Rocky. His name was Rocky, and he was a Japanese, born and raised in Colorado. He was a pistol-packing Rocky. He actually had a .38 with him. And through his efforts, his knowledge of the area, he was taken to Laramie, Colorado, now Laramie, Wyoming, and there we found employment at the Nichols Construction Company. Oh, was it cold up there. I couldn't believe how cold it is up there. I nearly froze to death over there. My brother would say, if you guys don't work any harder, you're going to die over here. And actually, we might have died. Our cheeks were turning green, and my ears felt like it's going to fall off. Oh, it was cold over there. Yes, ma'am. But right after that, the war ended in August of 1945, and we were able to get more freedom. But people are very funny. They don't like you. Actually, the people spit in my face in bus station in Denver, Colorado. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before evacuation, we had probably only 30 days to 45 days to instigate or to have a management firm come in and take over the ranches so that at least we'd have some place to come home to. And we were very lucky to find a person named Momberg, and he managed the place while we were in the relocation center, and actually paid for all our bank accounts or what do you call them, loan interest and everything. So we had a place to come home to. However, during that period, Mother had no place to go to because we were all away. We were all scattered from on the Colorado plains or whatever. One of my brothers was actually in internment camp in New Mexico. What was the name of that? Santa Fe, New Mexico. And they were going to deport him. And we went down there to stop that deportation papers. And my good friend Joe had a brother down there, and we had to actually go down there and stop the paperwork that the government was going to say they're going to deport my good friend Joe's brother, my brother Sam, and consequently there was 4 brothers. All of us was in prison in that one time. So January 1946, after everything is cooled down, the government says they're going to close the camps, and my mother had no place to go, so they had what they call a hostel that the place, someplace people would come home to. It was actually a small church. And and it was in January 1946. And this one man pops up and says, "What in the hell are you guys doing over here? You're not wanted here." I said, "We're not here to live. We came to pick up my mother." He says, no, I don't want you guys ever to come back over here. And that was, oh, I was angry. I was so angry I could have killed that man. Everybody had gone through the same thing. And why did he ever pick on us? I don't know. But this is an incident where goes back, and this is the man that actually did it. It goes back when I was a youngster, going to the grammar school in Baliko, coming home, going to the Japanese school. And one of the Japanese school teachers was Mrs. Shimizu. And the family had asked that man to loan him his name because he was not a minor, he was an adult. He's 18 and over. So they had bought that piece of property under his name. And when the time came that he wanted to raise a family, he wanted to get married, he claimed that ranch, which was the best piece of ground in that community. He took it back without paying a penny because the deed was in his name. Could you believe that? He chased those family out of that house.